Gabriel's here. I mean, the book is really just one of the most beautifully, luxury illustrated and colored comics I've ever seen. I just wanted Gabe to talk a bit about the process of what he's gone through on these pages and show you a little bit about what we put him through on these pages. This is the cover for issue 3.
Well, I think one of the things that I can surely state about this project is that certainly has pushed me to get into limits of creativity and try to pull off visuals and story in a way that I never did before. I was before a huge fan of Winsor McCay's work. The original Little Nemo was very important for me as an influence as an artist. But after working in this world and with these characters and tried to give a new fresh spin on that mythology and that world, I became much more an admirer of that work because you realize the amount of hard work that's behind and also the groundbreaking achievements in the imaginative visuals that McCay did in the original work. So I feel very blessed to have both the opportunity of working in this book. I think we need these kinds of books. We need to recover our inner child and bring to joyful places. And I also feel incredibly blessed of being working with people like Eric Shanower, who's writing an amazing story for his characters. He really nailed it in a way to bring a new Nemo for new readers, but capturing the magic of the original strip. And also, I'm very happy of having the chance at last of working with my fellow Chilean friend, Nelson Daniel, who's the colorist of this book, which I think is one of the top colorists in comics today, and has done a completely breathtaking take on the color work for Slumberland. I think I'm very happy with the work I've been doing with Little Nemo pages, but every time I see the pages in return with Nelson colors, it gets to a complete magical level that I never expect to achieve. So I'm very happy with it. It has been a lot of hard work, but we're doing it with the most love we could put in every page, and hopefully people will receive it in that way. I think it's a way to recall the best of our childhood and rediscover it with a new view. And it has been a thrilling journey to do.
There are very few comics that have this level of whimsy and magic on every. I mean, that page on the left there sort of speaks to everything that you can see in this comic. It's just like anything the imagination can sort of come up with. Gabe and Eric will put on the page.
I think one of the most important things in this book is that Eric didn't try to make an overcomplicated story or something that would be, I don't know, trying to get an epic scale in relation with the scope that Slumberland offers. But instead of that, he tells a very simple, honest, straightforward story of a kid, and seeing this world through the eyes of the kid is what makes it magical. So, in a way, despite all the fantastic visuals that you could have in this book, I think the most magical thing that it has is that has an honest child view to it, and a way to approach things with a point of view that adults don't usually have to this kind of stuff. And I think that's the most enjoying experience you can get from doing this book.
So right now, issue 2, it's not in stores yet, but we have an exclusive cover on that at our booth this weekend. So.
That was actually a retailer variant, sorry Chris.
But it is here.
But it is here, but there are several retailers that have it. If you want to take a look at one, come and find us.
Yeah. And I wanted to show, other than that cheeky panel that we just thought, this is probably the cutest thing you'll see all weekend. Which is,
and if you're a Gabe fan, Gabe will be kind of our headliner on our IDW artist panel. That's tomorrow at 2:15, and I don't remember the room.
It's actually in this room.
Oh, well,
So just stay here.
just sleep here. Just bring some beer.
all right, so let's keep the theme of like sweetness and whimsy going, and let's talk to Jonathan about what he's up to.
All right. Yeah, V-Wars is, if you haven't jumped in yet, we just finished the first arc, we're about to start the second. It's a science fiction approach to vampires. Nothing supernatural, nothing sparkles. It's gritty, very bloody, very political. Having a lot of fun with it. Basically, a gene is activated by a virus that causes people to turn into vampires. And they become whatever vampires tied to their ethnic backgrounds. Of all these different species. There's a big conflict, and we're having a blast with it. The covers are by Brian Brown, who's doing this amazing amazing covers. And Kevin Eastman from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is doing the variant covers, and they're pretty amazing too. The interior art's by Alan Robinson with colors by Jay Photos. So you have, this incredible visual creative team, presenting page after page of just beautiful stuff, and then I give them some disgusting things to work with in terms of script. So I'm having a lot of fun. V-Wars is also headed to, my character Joe Ledger from my thriller series, for those who read the Joe Ledger novels, guest stars as of issue 6, which just came out Wednesday. It's doing a 3-issue arc, and it's his first time in comics, so we're having a lot of fun having him delivering violence and snarky comments, which is pretty much the description of Joe Ledger, violence and snarky comments. V-Wars is also in development for TV right now, and our head writer for the show is Tim Schlotman, who's the head writer for Dexter. So, he's not bringing any lightweight, he's not pulling any punches when it comes to, putting intensity, horror, and blood in the story. So we're about to go out shopping the show right now. There's a V-Wars board game heading our way next August, and that's written by Chris Davio, who wrote Risk Legacy, one of the real great board games. He's a fantastic game writer. And I have no doubt that I will get killed playing my own game, because I'm terrible at board games. So I have this dread of when I finally sit down to play the game of just being slaughtered in the first couple of plays every single time I play it. So it's either going to be really an endearing thing, the fact that the author can't, or it's going to be deeply embarrassing and I'll be in therapy. So.
V-Wars started off as a prose anthology, and there is a
second prose anthology is coming out 22nd in comic stores.
That sounds great.
Yeah. And then 13 days later in regular bookstores. And for those of you who read horror, science fiction, and fantasy, we've got guys like Kevin J. Anderson, Scott Sigler, Larry Correa, Joe McKinney, all, Yvonne Navarre writing these edgy stories. For the second volume, I told them to, really amp up the intensity. And they gave us some stories that, I'm reading them and going, holy shit. They took over the top to a new level. So it's a fun anthology, and the second book is coming out. The comic is not an adaptation of the anthology. It's actually parallel stories that take place, so everything's fresh and new when you dive into V-Wars.
So Jonathan doing multiple book series, multiple comic series, and TV shows and games isn't enough for him, so he's also doing
apparently some of you have heard of Rotten Ruin. Rotten Ruin, for those who haven't heard of it, was a series of 4 novels set 14 years after the zombie apocalypse. Imagine, what Walking Dead would be like if it was told from the point of view of kids 14 years later. It's still the same gritty world. And kind of off the record, Robert Kirkman and I both agree that our series take place in George Romero's Night of the Living Dead world. And apparently Romero agrees, because he said, yeah, that gives an unofficial blessing in that. So it's all one big dysfunctional world. The novel's already out, the film is in development right now, and the comic takes place between 2 of the novels, between books 2 and 3. But you don't need to have read the novels in order to jump right into the comic. Artwork by Alex Vargas is just stunning inside. I mean, it's really stunning artwork. And we're having just a lot of fun with that. And the first issue was out, the first issue actually sold out, and those are some of the covers we have coming up. We're having some fun with the covers. One on the left might actually be my favorite comic book cover of anything I've ever had. It's just so great. I might actually have to get that framed on my wall. We have some great covers, including some that may get us in trouble with, it's technically written for teens, and one of the covers is probably going to get us in trouble with every school librarian in the country. Not one of those two, there's none. And there's also actually, I don't know if we have any art for it, but there's one other project I'm involved with you guys on is I'm editing 3 X-Files anthologies. All original stories for X-Files, including some written by, very sketchy characters here. And we're having a lot of fun with those. The stories are starting coming in now, they're just fantastic.
Yeah, so Rotten Ruin's a very fun zombie story, though. One thing it redid, I always felt there was one thing that it needed, and that's robots. So these are a couple images from artist James Stocco, and they're all to sort of talk up the fact that I'm bringing back Zombies vs. Robots in January of next year. Yes, correct.
With, and Ashley Wood will be involved, yes?
Yeah, so the thing of it is the Inherit the Earth you saw in those other teasers, the project has been with Sony for a couple of years now in film development, and it's in whatever stage these things are at. We're in when they're in Hollywood film development. But the project has been renamed been renamed Inherit the Earth for the eventual presumed film. So I figured I would reclaim the title Inherit the Earth and bring it out in this book. So what's going to happen in the first 6 issues is I'm doing a new story with an artist named Anthony Diaz-Sedu. We're going very artsy. And then Steve Niles is doing a story with Val Mayer, who, among other things, is the creator of Howard the Duck. Sort of the natural transition from talking animal company. And then Ashley Wood is doing covers. He did a 2-page spread, standalone story in the first issue, and he's doing design for it. So this is the thing that Ash and I created a few years ago, and the thing of it was we thought we would create a series that started at the end, and it sort of made no sense. But when you go to do new stories and with that sort of an initial premise, it's kind of hard to go on from there. So we nuked the entire planet with issue 2. So rather than trying to go back and either explain or work around that, we thought, well, let's just keep going forward. So this is a year after that, and there are some human characters that actually sort of exist in different pockets of the world and above the world. And so it's establishing a new cast of characters in the form of new robots, new humans, and sort of giving it a new direction, a new reason for being, rather than just zombies and robots punching each other, which there is a lot of that too, but we're having a lot of fun with it and trying to find a new, unique way to bring it back. So this is the story I'm doing, that's a page of Anthony's artwork. And then here's Niles and Val Mayer doing their thing. And then, as mentioned, this is Ashley Wood's piece for the issue, so Zombies Robots is coming back in a big way in January. That's a cover for one of the later issues by an artist named Mark Torres. So from there, since I'm